June's sort of a dead month, so I figured I would take the time to catch up on some of the movies that I missed from last year. And what better way to start than the movie by the guy who made The Black Coat's Daughter?
The house that holds a memory of a death is the staying place of a rotted ghost.
I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House is a mouthful of a title directed by Perkins. It stars Ruth Wilson and Lucy Boynton, and it tells the story of a live-in nurse who goes to take care of an old woman, and the house she moves into is haunted, maybe, and she likes to monologue a lot. This is a really interesting film. I mean, as I described in my Black Coat's Daughter review, this was his second film, but it came out before his first film. Distribution problems or something, I don't know. Regardless, I wanted to check this out. I had heard really mixed things. I'd heard from some of you commenters that it was awful. I had heard some people on Reddit that it was amazing. I'd heard really kind of all across the board all sorts of weird mixed reactions to it. I love The Black Coat's Daughter, so I wanted to check this out. Having done so now, I liked it. I didn't love it. I liked it. I can definitely understand a lot of the criticisms for it, and I can definitely understand why a lot of people loved it. It has a lot of really great things in it, but it has some stuff that really missed the mark, even for me. Let's start with the good. Ruth Wilson gives a fantastic performance in this film. She is probably the best part, and it's that she is so captivating every time she's on screen, and even with some kind of iffy dialogue here and there, she makes it work simply because she's giving this performance her all, and it's really impressive. Lucy Boynton is hardly in the film, and she serves her purpose, and she does a good job with what she's given, again, which is not very much. Aside from that performance, the best thing about this movie for me is the cinematography and the overall crafting of it. Oz Perkins knows how to make a film, and he knows how to make a film really well. This is a gorgeous film. It is beautifully shot. It is the best word I can use to describe the cinematography in this film is very elegant. He uses a lot of really interesting techniques in order to convey the themes he's trying to express about ghosts. There's a lot of I actually don't know what the technique is called when they black out everything around the edges of a shot and have only like something in the middle like highlight. I don't know what it's called, but he does that a lot in this film, and it's really cool. It really helps to convey the message he's trying to get across about ghosts and how they're looking at the world they left behind through a very narrow frame of view. The house in question is very gothic, but with like a rustic feel to it, and I like that. It really adds to the overall tone of the film when the house is, old and creaky and seems to almost have a life of its own because it's so ancient, and that adds to the atmosphere, especially considering that this is, much like The Black Coat's Daughter, a very atmospheric film. Perkins really knows how to build tone really well. He creates a really distinct sense of foreboding through really basic techniques. There's a lot of static cams, there's a lot of very shallow focus, and a lot of things happening in the background with very, like I said, shallow focus on the camera, and it really adds this sense of tension, and it pervades throughout most of the film. This is a creepy film, and there are certain elements of it that really remind me of bits of Polanski, and there's even a couple bits of David Lynch in there, specifically in terms of the visuals with one of the ghosts. There's a lot of points where something subtle will kind of come inching out of the darkness in a fashion that reminded me a lot of certain things that David Lynch has done in terms of Inland Empire and Twin Peaks and other things like that. This film has a lot of strong points, like I said, mainly in the acting, in the way it's crafted, and especially in just that overall tone of the film, that sense of dread and that sense of build. All of that dread and tension really ramps up in one scene toward the end, and that, in my opinion, is the best scene in the film. I'm not going to spoil it, but it involves, somebody seeing said ghost, and it really, really works. That being said, and I'm going to kind of spin this into negatives now, my biggest issue with this film is essentially the lack of payoff. There is a payoff, but given the film's constant build of dread throughout the entire movie, it doesn't feel satisfying enough. given the way this movie ends. This is not a particularly satisfying ending, and while I don't feel that it detracts from the quality of the overall film, it is definitely going to leave a lot of people wanting more and wanting some kind of resolution that they're not going to get. Given the themes this film presents and the ramping sense of dread that builds throughout, I feel as though the payoff is not enough. And I think that maybe if this was like a short film, it could have worked better. But when you're sitting there for an hour and a half with all this constant building tone, and you're ultimately left with something that is less than satisfying, it does kind of feel as though the film was ultimately a waste. I don't think that this was a bad film by any means. I actually quite, like I said, I quite liked it. But I can understand a lot of people's irritation with it and a lot of people saying that they really hated it because of that. It is a slow burn, and I'm fine with slow burns, but I do feel that if you are going to make your film a slow burn, there should be more of a worthy payoff that everything was leading up to. But as I said, I did enjoy this film. I do feel that it was a step down from The Black Coat's Daughter after that film was so magnificently crafted and just horrifying. I feel that this was definitely a step down. But what it ultimately is a horror film that's crafted to kind of resemble a Shirley Jackson novel. And that's interesting, and that's cool. It's really not anything quite like I've ever seen, and I'm not going to knock it for that. That's really interesting. I just wish that it had led to something a little more satisfying. And I'm going to say that I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House is solid. It's not fantastic, but it's got really excellent tone and really good acting, and while the writing was kind of hit and miss, there's some great fucking dialogue in there. Oh my god. Some of it's kind of wonky, but some of it's incredible. It ultimately, I feel that it satisfies what it's trying to do. I just think what it's trying to do will ultimately alienate some viewers, and I can understand where they're coming from if it does. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and you can, click down there and like and comment and subscribe, and I'll have some more reviews for you soon. Thanks so much.
Even as I look right at it,